And welcome back to the Relationship Cycle with Jorge and Nelsa. I'm Nelsa and Poppy. We are talking about dating after the honeymoon stage of the relationship. So, what we mean by this, for anybody who is not familiar with that term listening, because we do have listeners worldwide, thank you very much. Um, there's this sweet period of getting to know each other, the just bubbles and magic and sunshine of going out, getting to know each other, getting closer. Just looks like the relationship is just growing by leaps and bounds. And then you hit a wall. Sometimes that's a few months after, sometimes it's a few years after. But our goal today is to talk about what to do and how to maintenance your relationship after all the sunny days have come, and maybe you hit some turbulence, you hit some um stormy days, you hit some days where it's just the doldrums and you're bored, and things kind of slow down and become a more consistent sort of everyday normal, if you will, where maybe you're a little predictable. So, how have you ever experienced this, Poppy, as we move into this topic?
Oh, absolutely. It's something that I think we all will eventually run into. And it is up to all partners or individuals to be mindful and to be aware that it is a normal thing that can happen. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen to everybody, or doesn't mean that it's a doomed relationship if it does happen. It's To me, it's kind of more of the nature of the beast. But I will say the number one thing, because I have a lot of people in my circle that have been married a long time, and they've kind of acknowledged that, yeah, there is a point where you are going to face that reality, whether it be knowingly or unknowingly.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that I kind of gathered from everyone that I discussed this conversation with is acknowledging the issue.
Yes.
And obviously that goes with not just, post honeymoon stage, but even any kind of circumstance or dilemma. Acknowledging that it is an issue is going to be the first step, in my opinion.
Well, and I agree with that. There were so many times that I was very Pollyanna and had my head in the sand about the rhythm of relationships. And I had a really good um, physiologist that I work with who described the term homeostasis. And homeostasis is sort of the middle of things, sort of the leveling off of things. You're not too low, you're not too high. Well, in the beginning of relationships, and I really think I was a relationship addict early on, and got dopamine hits from the being in love stage, where, you're dating and you're just so happy to see your person. You just want to roll yourself up in a blanket in them. And that was me. That was me. Just very, how shall I put it? Hallmark and uh, Disney movies all rolled into one. I was like a walking romance novel waiting to happen. Like I just, if any of you have ever seen Into the Woods, it's a musical, but it talks about, how in most fairy tales everything is so perfect, and it ends happily ever after. Well, in this particular musical, it talks in the second act about what happens after the happily ever after. And so it was a real wake up call. And I happened to see this musical when I was teaching theater, and it was during my marriage, where we were not in such a happily ever after stage, or we were getting ready to hit that stage of, disenchantment, if you will. And it was just like, what do you do? And I agree with you that it really does require both parties acknowledging that it happens. Because I wasn't willing, I was in denial. I was like, no, 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 no. I'm still up here in the air. I don't want to come down. And, that just is a very hard place to maintain permanently. Like highs, like they used to say about people who used to have drug addiction, you're always chasing the first high. And that's how I was. in relationships. I was always chasing the high of the love bomb, of the, just that falling sensation and how great it felt. And I did not want to come to the reality of maintenancing a true relationship. And I think that's where I really had to do work on my own um, attachment style and my needs, and why I was so obsessed with being in love. Really, if
I
I
mean,
really want to be
it's
honest.
let's be honest, that's the number one drug in the world, right? That
Yeah.
impacts everybody, whether you love a family member or you want to be loved or you want to be around people
Hmm.
that love you. That is, in my opinion, the number one drug in the world is that feeling of being in love. And that's why it's also so hurtful when we go through a breakup or we fall out of love. But
Yeah.
um, I would say that obviously acknowledging, like most problems and dilemmas,
Hmm.
acknowledging that it is an issue,
Right.
and then the next step is to really assess the situation and be honest with yourself and with your partner or partners about the compatibility and the desires that either are becoming a problem or are not being fulfilled, or you just
Hmm.
don't feel that they're being met, and maybe once upon a time they were. I think having that
Yeah.
honest discussion as well with yourself and with your partners about that is going to help shed light to what front and center, right, what the problems are. Because the worst thing you could do, in my opinion, is to just ignore it altogether or to just assume that everything's going to be all right.
Absolutely. And you know what? And that's the thing too. A lot of people, like I did, want to put your head in the sand and just be like, okay, it's just a little spell we're going through. And sometimes it is. Sometimes you just have to give it time. But in the meantime, you do have to acknowledge, like, people change. Like, who I was, um, dating in high school is not who I was dating in college. It's not who I am, in this day and age. And so you have to acknowledge your own personal growth, I think, in addition to that conversation about your needs and desires evolving. Because sometimes, maybe we were vanilla in the beginning of the relationship, but now maybe we're wanting to experience a little chocolate or a little rocky road or strawberry praline mix. I don't know. But if you don't acknowledge that, I agree, that can lead to some real problems. I think the other thing, too, about this topic that I found very interesting is that for me, and I'm speaking personally on this, for me, acknowledging that a relationship took maintenance felt like I was acknowledging that it was hard work. And I just always felt like, it's almost like you create problems to have to solve. But the more I learn about the brain and how we function as humans, like, we are problem solvers. And sometimes we do get to a place where the relationship is just kind of, on easy street. And that can lead to taking the other person for granted, taking the relationship for granted, and thinking that, okay, I just got to do the bare minimum and that's all it's going to take. And so then we start to create problems that we need to solve. And sometimes that's good on a relationship. Sometimes that can be a problem because if you don't know how to be still when things are going well, and you're one of those people that needs drama and conflict to feel like that's the basis of the relationship and that's what keeps you high as well, then you will create a problem when there is none because you don't know how to be still. And I didn't know how to be still either. Like, that was another thing. Like, I wasn't a drama queen necessarily, but I was like, I will admit that there's some wanderlust in me as far as adventure and new experiences. And so I would want to have these new experiences with my partner, and they would not be hip to that. They wanted to sit still for a minute because it was like, well, we just, got through all of this, the storming and norming of the beginning of the relationship. Let's just chill right here for a minute. And I was very anxious that if I had to chill, I would grow bored. And when I got bored, I start like making problems happen and, you know, getting antsy. And so that would create a problem for us. in the relationship because I wouldn't know how to just be still and enjoy the moment. Because it's almost like I believed if we stayed there too long, the shoe might drop, and then I'd be ready to I don't. I'm bored. I'm out. And um, again, that takes some real self awareness.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's important to ask yourself and your partner, right? The question of, are your needs being met and fulfilled? Because
Mm-hmm.
maybe in the beginning it can be, right? Or maybe early on they are.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, you start to kind of see little cracks in the foundation, and those cracks are starting to get bigger and bigger, whether it be because maybe you got married and have kids now. So obviously now the kids become the priority. Now it's not just you and him or
Mm-hmm.
you and your partners, right, that are the priority and focus. Now it's
Right.
the family, the kids, or maybe a job, right, where you may have a demanding job now
Mm-hmm.
where you're not spending a lot of time together because the job schedule just doesn't allow it. And you either have to be aware of it and try to work around it, or, be intentional, be creative with how to make time together. And I think also being aware of keeping the intimacy and passion alive, because
Yes.
once that starts to die out, it will affect every part of the relationship, in my opinion.
Yes. At Tara Rose, we always reach out to our listeners, and they never fail, Poppy, to give us some good feedback. But Tara Rose says science says on average it takes 3 years to truly know someone. The honeymoon phase is the period where your brain fills in the blanks for the pieces you don't know. Eventually, those pieces are filled in by reality. The true test comes at that point. Knowing someone truly with their strengths and flaws. Is this someone you are genuinely compatible with? Can you build, grow, and change together? When the person in front of you is authentically able to be themselves and you can do the same and you genuinely know and understand each other, that's your person. Tara Rose, you are spot on, my friend. This comment to me really gets to the heart of the whole honeymoon phase. It's the most idyllic version of the two of you. Like, I always like to think of it as, you know, in the cartoon world, Pepe Le Pew always had that little pink haze over him when he saw the cat that he thought was another skunk. And it was like that. It's like that pink rosy haze. Like they can't do any wrong. Nobody can say anything bad about him, and you'll believe it. Like you were just caught up in this real rosy glow of like before filters. There's the honeymoon phase. Honeymoon phase would be an Instagram filter, if you will, right? So everything's real soft, like old Hollywood. The edges are blurred. Everything's just real soft. And then when you get out of that phase and reality starts to intrude, like, do you really like what you see? Does it match what you thought you were seeing when you were caught up in this haze? And so, Tara, I love this because, when you say the true test comes when you really know somebody, flaws and all, and you still are 10 toes down with that person. Like, I know that you snore, but I'm willing to stay in the same house with you, or at least on the same property, and make it work. I know that you can be judgmental sometimes with people, but I know you got a heart of gold and you'll give a shirt off your back. It's like finding that balance. Again, that word homeostasis, where I'm going to take the good and the bad because there's so much more good that outweighs those little annoyances. 'Cause sometimes little annoyances, they used to say in church, it's the little foxes that get you. It's not always cheating. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it's like the way they chew their food. Like, damn, would you stop smacking over there? That's the kind of stuff that creeps in after the honeymoon stage, right? Like, oh, I can't stand to see you chew gum. Shut up over there. Like your voice is getting on my nerves today. When
And
you
that's
get to
part of,
that part,
yeah, and that's part of the transition, right? Where you're starting to get comfortable with each other. You feel like, hey, I can call you out on this,
you could
and
pass gas at random, you know, like that's
using the
sometimes when a
bathroom with the
guy's like, you're
door
getting way too
open, not putting the
comfortable.
seat down.
Yes, that kind of thing, right? Oh my gosh.
But I think it's important to going back to the to kind of continue to talk about the passion and the intimacy department. Like
Hmm.
we've mentioned, right, and even in other conversations and podcasts, that it takes a group effort to keep that passion and that intimacy alive. And one of those ways to work on that or to be intentional with that as a focus is to go on adventures together or be spontaneous, right? Because like you were kind of touching on earlier, once you
Hmm.
kind of start to kind of get into a routine, you start getting into it becomes almost a repetitive nature type feeling. um that can bore people and that can grow dry and stale,
Right.
so that's why the spontaneity and the adventure, and it doesn't necessarily have to be in a sexual manner. It could be like, hey, you know what, get ready. We're going to go to the mountains this weekend. I want to just get away for a little bit, even if it's just for a weekend or a day or two. Like that
Hmm.
kind of stuff is intimacy, and spending time together, bringing some adventure or doing something for the very first time, right? Let's say if somebody has wanted to go to, I don't know, Spain, and they've never gotten the chance, or a cruise and they just haven't gotten around to it or
Hmm.
whatever, but that your partner has expressed this and they just haven't gotten around to it. That is an example of, hey, you know what? Let's go do this together for the first time, or let's, go exploring or have an adventure.
Hmm.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be something lavish or extravagant. It could be something as, hey, you know what? I want to take you to a place where I used to go for my childhood, or where my family used to take me, or whatever the case may be, right? Something that is personal to you or that you
Yeah.
hold in dear. And now you want to share that with your partner or partners. I think keeping focus on those core values will help maneuver this transition that naturally is going to happen the more you spend time together, the more you settle in, and the more comfortable you get around each other.
Well, and Natasha Gillen says consistency is key. Be consistent in keeping communication open, keep dating your partner, continue to do all the things that got you your partner. Make sure you take time for date nights and time just between the two of you. Keep the spice alive, try new things, go on adventures, just like you were talking about. She says she dated her fiance for 4 years, got engaged in June, getting married in May 2025. Congratulations, Natasha. We do these things constantly and it always feels new and exciting. And I think, again, like there has to be a commitment, though, from both partners to be willing to go outside your comfort zone together, whether it's in your communication, like things you're sharing with each other, things you want to try that you don't know. Maybe that person may not be as comfortable, with that. We've talked about some shows where we spice up the bedroom or whatever. Maybe that's going to be some role play, and the other person doesn't necessarily feel as um exploratory as the other one. So you really have to um be engaged and be willing to try something that the other person is maybe into, that feels comfortable. You know what I'm saying? Where you feel safe.
Oh,
um
absolutely. And as you, right, I mean, at this stage, right, once you start getting to that point, you want to feel that, hey, I have a pretty good feel of what my partner likes and what my partner is into. And at that point, with what you have learned and what you know about your partner, you can be like, hey, you know what? I know you've been meaning to go to this event, or you've been meaning to maybe go to this adult resort. So, guess what? For your birthday, we're going here. Or, hey, you always wanted to go to Colorado to see the Rockies. Let's go do that. Like, adventure doesn't necessarily have to focus in the
mhm.
bedroom, although, absolutely, that is something where I can go on record and I can tell you that people that have been together for a long time, that are genuinely together, their intimacy and their love life and sex life is on point, because that is an integral part of their relationship and why they still remain close and maintain that bond that allows
Mhm.
them to have a prosperous, long relationship or marriage.
Well, I know a couple, they're good friends of mine, and the boyfriend knows that his woman loves casinos. And so he has taken upon himself that they're going to tour different casinos across the country. And that's sort of their thing now. And I thought, man, what a great idea to
Absolutely.
take an idea. They love travel, they love casinos, to go and try different ones, and to take that as a way to be able to spend time together and do it, once a month or once every couple months or once a quarter or whatever it is, and really get to spend some quality time doing something they love. Like some people do marathons together. But like you said, it creates that bond again as well, I think, that it solidifies what you already have in a new way. Like this is now our new thing. It's our new collection together. This is the thing that we love to do. Some people love to go antiquing. But finding what your it thing could be in this season of your relationship. But I will say relationships where it did not go well was based on the other person being resistant to ideas that I was trying to throw out to kind of create more sizzle, and bring life back to the relationship in a new way. And when you get resistance like that, it really does pull on the relationship. So, cautionary tale. Like if you're not the person who is the adventurous one of the group, sometimes we do marry opposites or get involved with opposites of our personality sometimes. And that's really where you got to start looking at, can we sustain what we have if we aren't compatible enough in the ways that we see, like, having that conversation out front. Like, how do you see us maintaining a freshness to our relationship? Like, I think that ought to be a dating question, like when you're out there just kind of getting to know people, because that gives you an idea of like what sort of energy this person brings to the table. If they say, well, I'm just good with us having a random date night or spontaneous date night, but they don't really plan. So then you're ending up doing all the plans all the time and it becomes work for you. Like, no, for me, now I'm that woman. Like we both have to be able to put in on the planning because I don't always want to plan. I want to be surprised too sometimes. Like, but I'm always surprising you and you never put in any work. Like that's going to be tedious for me. So I think these conversations are so important at the beginning because when you do hit that wall, you already have sort of a plan in the back of your mind, like, okay, this is not a problem. We just need to, step back and reconnect. Um, I sent you a post from Instagram earlier on this topic, and the couple were just like, he's sitting on the floor, she sits on the floor, wraps her legs around him. They're fully clothed, and then they just kind of put their foreheads together, face to face, and lock their arms around each other. And that was so powerful an image for me, that out of our lives, if we could just stop in our busyness, we don't even have to go anywhere sometimes. Sit on your floor, sit on your bed, and physically and spiritually reconnect to your partner. I think you even said the word meditate with your partner, if you want to
That's
consider
what it
it
looked
that.
like.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but if you just want to sit touching and connecting again, because sometimes we get busy, like you said, with kids, our jobs, activities outside of home, and sometimes we're doing too much everywhere but in our relationship. And sometimes we just need to take a pause together, lay down and wrap up in each other and take a nap. Be couch potatoes on the sofa together, but physically allow yourselves to reconnect where you don't have the phone in your hand. And maybe you don't need to watch TV, but maybe you need to be looking at each other quietly just to see the other person again, like just to acknowledge their being in your space together. I just love that idea. I don't know, that just turned me on, to tell you the truth. Like that's some shit I want to do with my man now. After I heard
Hey,
that part, I was
I
like,
like
oh
it.
my God.
I think it's pretty cool, and I think it's another form, right, of being
Yes.
intimate without having to make it a sexual thing. Because I feel like sometimes when people think of passion and intimacy, a lot of people, their mind kind of goes in the gutter, which sometimes, it is that,
It's where it needs to be
but
sometimes, but
hey,
not all the
absolutely.
time.
Not
Right.
all the time, because sometimes it's those little things that add up to the big things. And I know we've talked about in different podcast episodes where having like a check-in, right, in the relationship,
Yes.
because sometimes, let's be honest, not everybody has the bravery of looking their partner in the eyes and telling them,
Mm-hmm.
hey, what you're doing is not working for me, right? That's a tough
Yeah.
conversation to have, but sometimes, nevertheless, it is a conversation that needs to be had. And sometimes it is something that they can maybe control. Now, if it's something that they just can't help or can't control, then obviously that's going to open up a brand new set of worms. And now we're talking about this is a compatibility problem, not a
Yeah.
post honeymoon problem.
Right. But you know what? If you don't have the conversation, though, you cannot get to the ground floor of things to figure out. Yeah, you don't want to feel like, oh, it was so good and now it's just trash. But you need to have a conversation to find out why it's trash. And again, it may lead you down some different roads, but wouldn't you want to know and not have spent so much time, hitting your head against the brick wall when it really was about compatibility as opposed to you know, the other person just not caring about you. It's not that they don't care. It's just you don't really blend very well together sometimes. Our friend Catherine Madeline M, who is a frequent contributor on the Facebook post, says, I don't see it as work. I'm genuinely me. Work on myself every day to be a better person. And with that I treat people better. And for those that I love, I always go above and beyond. I'm a Cancer woman. She's using her sign in there. You have to go back to her zodiac post.
Where have we
I
heard
keep
that before?
I know, right? Those Cancer women, they do nurture strong. And my mom's a Cancer. I keep a small but tight circle. If I love you, I will rock with you until the wheels fall off. The key is also not to be around someone all the time. Take some time to put balance in your life. Work time, friend time, family time, you time, and then boo time. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. You don't get bored and you enjoy one another more. Keeps it spicy and fun. Another thing is to be thoughtful and selfless. Takes nothing to think about someone when you make a run to the grocery store. Ask them if they need anything, get their favorite drink, food, etc. Make them a home cooked meal, etc. Please respond when they feel people respond when they feel appreciated and desired. Learn their love language. Love them the way they receive love, not the way you receive it. Don't do something for someone because it's what you want, but rather what they want and what makes them feel loved, makes them smile or make their heart smile. Oh, I love this. And again, I like the idea of pulling out something a little different here of not being with that person all the time. My new job has me traveling a lot, and so I'm not home as many days a month as I used to be. And it really does enforce that idea of being able to miss your person so that when you are with them, you want to take full advantage of that time and really appreciate. And I listen differently. Now, that doesn't mean I always remember everything as well as I should. I've got to get me some ginkgo, but I really do listen differently because we don't get to talk all the time, all day long. And um, that's something that's new for me, like being able to miss a person. I used to not want to miss my person. I used to want to be right there next to him. I'd breathe your air if I could. Now, I'm telling you, I was so codependent. Poppy, we gotta do a show on codependency because I was like the
A
poster
part two?
child of a
We've done a part
recovering.
one
Well,
already.
we did do the part one, exactly. We need a part two because I'm telling you, I got some stories for you. But now as a recovering codependent, I feel like I'm much stronger in a relationship because I don't feel like I've got so much pull on the person. Like he has room to breathe and can keep up because I'm not like constantly in a state of neediness, emotionally. Um, I think getting to a healthy state creates that place of balance where you can be with your family, you can be with your friends. And if you're living in isolation with someone, I'm telling y'all right now, you've got to do something about that because that is so unhealthy for the relationship and for you as individuals. So, I'm not saying anybody's doing anything maniacal or anything. It's just like as a human, there are other parts of your life that have to be attended to, and it can't always be with that one person. So, really look at, how much time are we spending together? Because maybe that's the problem. Like
Yeah,
you,
it could
you
be
still, yeah, chasing the
oversaturation.
high, oversaturation. That's a great word. And
Like, it's good. And I'm glad you brought this up because if you know thyself, right?
yeah.
If you know that you are somebody that needs that constant affection, that constant attention, if you are a clingy individual, right? It's not a
Mm,
wrong thing, right? Because at the end of the day, if that's what you are and that's what you require from your partners, then it's all good. But be aware and lay it out there because one of the things that I can't deal with is a woman being clingy and then I don't find out until afterwards. Like, if you
yeah.
know you clingy, let me know. So that way I know what I'm walking into. And I know that, hey, by me not replying to a text, that has got you feeling some kind of way, got you anxious, et cetera, et cetera. Because I agree that some space is great. And in some instances, that can even strengthen the relationship because too much honey can absolutely be a problem as well.
It
So
can
I think
rot your
that space.
teeth. It can rot your teeth. Oh,
Facts. Get
you
you a good
know, for
toothbrush.
real. But anyway, we've got to put a bow on this one for today. But awesome topic. Love to hear more from you all on our YouTube channel when you hear the show this week or whenever you hear it, because of course they stay out there in eternal world of internet. But we love to hear your response to this and how you are keeping your relationship fresh once the honeymoon phase has ended. Let us know your thoughts. Give us your feedback on the show. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you so much for your support of our work for such a long time. For those of you who have been with us from the first, and those of you who have joined us even here of late.
I'm telling you, it is amazing just the little group of followers that we have that consistently chime in and give us their perspective. And honestly, that's what really adds to this conversation is the multiple
Hmm.
perspectives, the different point of views, and the little different nuances to consider when you face some of these dilemmas. But as always,
Yes.
thanks everyone for your love and support. Check out the YouTube channel. Please recommend us to anyone and everyone that you think that could find value in some of these conversations and perspectives. And as always, love y'all and buenas noches.